Tonight, more pain for borrowers. The Reserve Bank hikes rates again as the war in the Middle East sends oil prices soaring. Also, Donald Trump lashes out at US allies for not sending warships to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. A DNA test and unexpected match reveals a decades-old IVF mix-up. And hometown hero Sam Kerr thrills Perth as the Matildas secure their spot in the Asian Cup final. This is ABC Late News. Hello, I'm Craig Smart. The Reserve Bank has hiked its cash rate for the second time in as many months. And with the war in the Middle East, economists are warning there could be more bad news to come. Rates have been increased by 0.25 percentage point, taking the cash rate to 4.1%. For someone with a $750,000 mortgage, that means an extra $113 every month. And the big four banks have all announced they will pass the increase on.
More pain for Australian borrowers.
Ultimately, with inflation that is already too high, the board decided raising the cash rate was the right call.
Inflation above target and a war in the Middle East helping to spark a fresh rate rise.
We've got an inflation challenge in our economy already, and developments in the Middle East are making that worse.
For the second month in a row, the RBA has lifted the cash rate by 0.25 percentage point in a split vote 5-4, taking it up to 4.1%, back to where it was a year ago. If lenders pass on the rate hike in full, homeowners with a $750,000 mortgage will see their minimum repayment rise by about $113 a month, which means they're now paying $226 more on their home loan since the RBA began lifting rates last month. For a $1 million mortgage, repayments will increase by $151, meaning they'll be paying more than $300 extra.
In breaking news, the Reserve Bank has increased the cash rate by...
It's certainly not the news Anna Sri wanted to hear.
I don't have a lot of non-regular expenses that are, I would say, discretionary spending, really. It's probably just food that I could cut.
The RBA governor was tight-lipped on what might happen next.
If we don't see the numbers indicating that we're going to see a slowing in underlying inflation, let's assume that it stays at 3.5%, then unfortunately we're going to see another rate rise from here.
Would you be prepared to put Australia into recession if that's what it takes to bring inflation much lower?
We don't want to have a recession, but if it's hard to get inflation down, then, we're going to have to deal with that.
Australia now has higher interest rates than many other economies like the US, UK and Canada. But it doesn't seem to be working because inflation here is also higher than in those countries. So that suggests even more rate hikes might be needed. Balancing that pain against the risk of recession, which no one wants. David Chow, ABC News.
Record fuel prices aren't to blame for today's interest rate rise, according to the RBA, but they are contributing to the country's inflation challenge. Australia's biggest fuel companies have been hauled before the competition watchdog as the government sought to allay fears of supplies running out.
From coast to coast, pain at the pump. Drivers navigate prices they've never paid before.
It's $100 extra every week now.
At one of Sydney's busiest low-cost servos, business has slowed to a crawl.
It's really quiet now. It's hardly 2 customers in 1 hour.
In some areas, diesel now topping $3 a litre. That's above the national average, according to the NRMA, which has unleaded hovering around $2.30.
We are now where we expect to be. That is cold comfort to Australians looking at the price boards and seeing the most expensive prices they've ever had to pay for.
Fuel companies today hauled before the competition watchdog to explain the rapid price spikes as the Treasurer moves to double fines for those found to be price gouging.
They are on notice.
The government is on alert, but seeking to hose down concerns fuel supplies could dry up.
All companies say to me that they fully expect all deliveries all through March and well into April.
That uncertainty fueling panic buying and creating shortages in regional areas. For now, rationing is off the table.
Because we don't believe at this point that's what is the best solution.
A good start is to make sure that Australian fuel isn't being exported.
Ampol's Brisbane refinery currently exports the petrol it produces because it doesn't yet meet Australian standards. Last week, those standards were temporarily lowered to allow the fuel to flow into the domestic market. It's one of only 2 refineries left onshore, leaving Australia to import 90% of its liquid fuels.
We must get back to drilling for oil and gas.
The war in Iran has sparked a broader debate about how Australia can bolster its fuel security. But the government's focused on the immediate crisis and the huge challenges it presents for the economy. The Treasurer was already planning a tough budget with little room for new cost of living relief. For now, he's holding the line, knowing further spending would only worsen inflation. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Israel's Defence Minister has announced tonight that Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani, has been killed in an Israeli strike. If that's confirmed, he'll be the second most senior Iranian official to be killed in this conflict after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei died in a strike in late February. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has scolded America's allies who've rebuffed his request to help protect oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Countries are also warning Israel against its ground offensive in Lebanon, arguing that humanitarian situation there is already alarming. ABC correspondent Catherine Diss reports from Metula near the Israel-Lebanon border.
A wave of drone and rocket attacks on the American embassy in Baghdad. Air defence systems activated. A nearby hotel in the Iraqi capital also targeted. Hundreds of kilometres away, Iranian missiles are intercepted by Israeli forces. Shrapnel falling onto a home in the occupied East Jerusalem and in the Old City, home to holy sites.
The Iranian regime is trying to create as much chaos as possible.
Chaos in Iran too, as the US and Israel continue their assault. Search and rescue crews pulling survivors from the rubble in Tehran.
There are no IRGC forces, no military personnel and no base here. All of these are homes.
Iran is leveraging its ability to cause economic pain, with traffic through the Strait of Hormuz remaining mostly at a standstill. The US president is ramping up pressure on other nations to help protect oil tankers in the critical shipping lane, warning he could delay his upcoming trip to China and taking another swipe at NATO countries.
Thank you very much. We don't need them, but it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react.
We will not be drawn into the wider war.
The wider war expanding again as Israel conducts what it's called a limited ground operation against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. In Israel's north, the military build-up on this side of the border is clear.
We're just hearing an air raid siren now. That's telling us to take shelter. So let's move. Okay. While it's too early to know whether this limited and targeted campaign will become a full-scale ground invasion, we are constantly hearing rounds of artillery being fired into Lebanese territory, and the Israeli government is reportedly undertaking a mass mobilisation campaign of 450,000 reservists.
Cafe owner Miri Menashe hopes to be one of them.
You keep your country safe, you fight for it. Eventually, you live in peace.
The prospect of peace uncertain in an ever-escalating conflict. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Metula.
A Sydney court has heard the mother and siblings of the alleged Bondi Beach gunman, Naveed Akram, live in constant fear for their safety. His lawyers have asked a magistrate to suppress their identities. The 24-year-old is yet to enter pleas to nearly 60 charges in connection with the shootings, which claimed 15 lives during a Jewish event in December. His lawyer says the gunman's relatives have received death threats. A lawyer representing media outlets, including the ABC, opposed the suppression, saying the information is already public. A decision will be handed down in about 2 weeks. A 30-year-old woman has discovered an IVF bungle in the 1990s means that she and her twin sister are not biologically connected to the woman who gave birth to them and raised them. It's the second known case in Australia of an embryo being transferred to the wrong family during IVF treatment.
Sasha Safransky grew up in Coffs Harbour with her mum and twin sister. At the time, she didn't know she had a whole other family just a short drive away.
That's my family home. And then if we just do a jump over to this little clearing here, that's where the biological family live now.
Last year, she sent her DNA to the genealogy tracing website Ancestry.com. Weeks later, the website matched her with a stranger, saying it was her maternal aunt. Together, the pair uncovered a life-altering error. Sasha Safransky and her twin sister were the biological children of a couple they'd never met.
That's really when it started to sink in. Perhaps something's gone awry.
She and her twin sister then told their mother, who birthed and raised them.
They just sort of said, there was a mix-up, Mum. We're not your biological children. I said, what? What are you talking about?
The family still don't know how the mistake happened. Penny Safransky's embryo transfer was at Royal North Shore Hospital in 1995. But the hospital says it didn't run the clinic then. A private company did. It was sold in the early 2000s, and that company was later acquired by Virtus Health, which also denies responsibility. Has anyone apologised to you?
No, because no one's owning up. No one's accepting responsibility for us.
What do you want our politicians and regulators who oversee IVF to know?
I want them to see the stakes of what happens when there's a mistake. I think IVF is just incredible. I wouldn't be here without it, but you just have to get it right.
While the world's attention is on the spiralling war in the Middle East, another conflict is intensifying in South Asia. Taliban officials say a Pakistani airstrike hit a rehabilitation centre in Kabul overnight, killing at least 400 people. Pakistan says it targeted militant infrastructure and denies hitting civilians. The strike comes as tensions between the two neighbours enter their third week. South Asia Bureau Chief Meghna Bali reports.
There's a sharp disagreement over what happened in Kabul overnight. The Taliban says civilians were targeted by Pakistan's military, while Pakistan says it hit terrorist infrastructure. But the pictures from the scene are hard to ignore. What we're seeing in emerging footage is deeply confronting. Rescue teams pulling bodies from the rubble and moving through smoke and debris as firefighters try to contain fires at the site. And crucially, those images do appear to show civilian casualties. Pakistan says it carried out what it's calling precision airstrikes as part of an operation targeting terrorist infrastructure and military sites linked to the Taliban's proxies in both Kabul and the eastern province of Nangarhar. Pakistan's information minister says ammunition depots and logistics hubs were destroyed. But the Taliban is flatly rejecting that. It says one of the sites hit was the Omid Addiction Hospital in one of Afghanistan's largest drug rehabilitation centres, which houses 2,000 patients. Taliban officials say hundreds were killed and injured in the attack. Now, we haven't been able to independently verify that death toll. And this all comes amid tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which have steadily been escalating over the past 3 weeks. Pakistan accuses the Taliban of harbouring militant groups responsible for attacks inside Pakistan. Now, that's a claim that the Taliban denies. The United Nations says the fighting has already killed dozens of civilians and displaced more than 115,000 people. And now that human toll is growing.
A man who murdered a barrister at Perth's Crown Towers has been jailed for 19 years. Cameron John Pearson had been in a relationship with Alice McShera. He killed her in an unprovoked attack.
Alice McShearer had been in an on-again, off-again relationship with Cameron John Pearson in 2023. At times, they would take drugs. During a period of reconciliation in October, they stayed at Crown Towers. But one night, he attacked her in the bathroom with a champagne bottle, hitting her multiple times. Prosecutor Justin Wally told the court it was a brutal, senseless and unprovoked killing. The Supreme Court heard Pearson attempted suicide the next morning after security came to check on Ms McShearer. He made admissions almost immediately but didn't plead guilty to murder until last year, after trial dates had been set. Pearson's lawyer said his client's offending was entirely out of character. The 44-year-old kept his face turned towards the judge and away from the public gallery during the entire sentencing hearing. Alice McShearer was described as kind, loving, generous and courageous. The court told she always wanted to be a lawyer. Justice Michael Gething said Pearson had expressed sorrow for the pain and suffering he'd caused, but he said it was a serious example of intimate partner violence, and the sentence needed to show society's abhorrence and intolerance of such offending. The 44-year-old will have to serve 19 years in prison before being eligible for parole. David Webber, ABC News.
A French sailor has died following an incident on the Hobart waterfront. Police divers found the man's body about 4 hours after he jumped into water from the Antarctic research vessel he was working on.
A tragic end to an international voyage. Police divers recover the body of a French sailor from Hobart's waterfront.
It appears that the male has jumped into the water on his own accord and got into trouble whilst in the water and hasn't been able to be recovered.
The 23-year-old was a crewmate on the Perseverance, a French science vessel fresh off a 7-week expedition studying ocean plants near Antarctica. Police say the man was with other crew members at about 4 o'clock this morning when it's believed he jumped from one of the ship's masts into the water.
Early indications that there may have been some alcohol involved, but that will form part of our investigation.
The man's crewmates contacted police when they couldn't find him. Police divers found the man's body just before 8 o'clock. The crew arrived in Hobart a week ago and was due to fly to Melbourne today. Police say they are very distressed by the incident.
Close-knit group, a tragic incident, enjoying themselves together. Condolences go to them in this tragic situation.
Tasmania Police says it's working with Interpol and the French Embassy to contact the man's family. Monty Jacker, ABC News.
New offences and tougher penalties to combat hate crimes against the LGBT+ community have been introduced into the New South Wales Parliament. The crackdown comes after the ABC exposed a wave of homophobic violence, including attacks inspired by Islamic State. A warning, this report contains graphic images.
Lured with dating apps.
You want to be gay? You want to be gay? Where's your phone? Where's your phone?
Young men and teenagers bashed in Sydney's suburbs.
His friends, they're all covered in black, all came and jumped me.
Jump it! Stop!
It's reminiscent of violence in decades past.
We will not allow that in New South Wales in 2026.
There'll be a new offence of luring someone under false pretences with the intent to commit violence, plus the expansion of so-called post and boast offences to cover serious assaults and robberies, so offenders face an extra 2 years jail on top of the base penalty. Sentencing reforms will make it easier to prove offences are motivated by hate, so perpetrators can be punished accordingly.
One is that this sort of hate is prevalent and needs to be stamped out, but secondly, it's probably only the tip of the iceberg.
Maximum penalties for inciting violence will increase from 3 to 5 years and up to 7 years if it results in physical violence. But as of last month, this offence has never been used for attacks based on sexual orientation or gender identity.
I would say it's a failure probably in education of frontline police officers.
Former Judge John Sacker has made recommendations on whether the crime of racial hate speech should be expanded to protect LGBTQIA+ people and other vulnerable groups. But the government has sat on his report since November.
Well, we haven't made a decision about it yet. The report's with Cabinet.
We do need broader incitement of hatred laws.
A push to criminalise speech, which advocates say begets violence. Alexander Lewis, ABC News, Sydney.
Just as the weather began clearing, Central Australia has once again been hit by heavy rain overnight, sending water back into Alice Springs and across parts of the Simpson district.
Water rushing through the Tont River, cutting the town in two.
Causeways closed, cars stranded.
There's cars they want to get through. Even me, I want to get through as well. I have to leave my car over there.
A familiar sight for an already soaking town.
I didn't expect to see this, especially when it's already flooded previously, and then get up this morning and it's flooding like this again.
Police say around 70 millimetres fell in just a few hours. Once again, they're warning people to avoid floodwaters after 2 people were rescued this morning attempting to cross. For others, the danger is clear.
That's the main thing when it floods like this, for everyone to be safe as well, because it is dangerous when it's like a heavy current and hard current.
While the weather is easing, the advice remains the same. Stay alert and stay out of floodwaters. Chris Marakarani Fitzpatrick, ABC News, Alice Springs.
A German shepherd saved from a car rooftop in rising floodwaters in the Northern Territory has been reunited with his rescuer. These were the scenes as this very lucky top-end dog, named Seven, was able to thank his rescuer in person. Officer Ben Parfitt's efforts lifting the pooch from the rooftop of Vakara at a Swollen Creek crossing near Katherine was captured by onlookers and went viral on social media. With 4 paws on dry land, Seven has fully recovered from the rough ordeal. The Danish Royals have continued their tour of Australia with a packed day of events in Melbourne. The pair met leaders and businesses focused on a green future and finished by testing their skills at an Aussie Rules clinic at the MCG.
Australia's famous sport on Melbourne's famous ground. Was no match for a Tasmanian-born queen as the Danish royal couple trod the hallowed turf of the MCG, rubbing shoulders with Hawthorn stars. But it wasn't always easy to stay on target. Before the kids showed the Queen how it was done. Melbourne had a Viking flavour to welcome King Frederick and Queen Mary as they signed their names into history on their first visit to Victoria in over a decade. The pair were welcomed by the Governor this morning, the Victorian Premier waiting in the wings for her moment.
Lovely to see you. Your Majesty, how are you? Lovely to welcome you to Victoria. How are you? Lovely to meet you both.
The royal couple with their sights set on a green energy future.
Queen Mary and I hope that many new, possibly historical, outcomes will materialise between Denmark and Australia as an outcome of our visit here in Melbourne.
The Queen also reflected on her past life in the city.
I lived here for 3 years and a lot's changed since there, but there's one thing that's still there, and that's the prawn pool.
The royal couple used today's visit to speak with local and Danish business leaders, fostering the connection between the two countries with a special focus on sustainability and technology.
Partnering across borders for a green, secure and sustainable tomorrow is a central objective of this visit.
The couple will spend one more day in Melbourne tomorrow before heading to the island state for a homecoming fit for a queen. Costa Haritos, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Matildas have held off a determined China to secure their spot in the Asian Cup final. Caitlin Ford put the Tillies on the scoreboard 17 minutes into the match, taking an early lead in front of a packed crowd in Perth. But a penalty less than 10 minutes later saw China draw level. The score locked at 1-1 at the break. It wasn't long into the second term when a stunning goal from Sam Kerr in front of her home fans put the Matildas ahead. The score 2-1 at full time. The Aussies will face either Japan or South Korea, who meet in the second semi-final tomorrow night. Collingwood veteran Scott Pendlebury's clean record stands after successfully fighting his one-match rough conduct charge at the tribunal. The Magpie Premiership star was instead fined $3,000 and will now face the Giants in 10 days' time.
Scott Pendlebury has proved there's a first time for everything. After 427 games, just 5 games off the all-time games record, the 38-year-old made his tribunal debut for this bump.
So clash your heads with Worrell and Pendlebury.
But his one-match ban was overturned after the Magpies argued the veteran was bracing for contact and recognised his exemplary record of just 3 fines in 21 seasons.
Pendlebury's too old for that sort of stuff, isn't he?
2 games into his AFL career, and already Jagger Smith has a Rising Star nomination on his resume. The 20-year-old watched on last season after rupturing his ACL, but found a silver lining in the elite game of his All-Australian teammate, Sam Walsh.
I was lucky enough I was able to sit in a few of his reviews, so it was actually like I was playing a game each week.
The Demons' 13-point win to start the year is something to celebrate. Sidelined until round 8 with an Achilles injury, but Jack Viney is itching to be part of Melbourne's new offensive game style.
It's exciting for sure. I want to be part of it ASAP. You can train it for months amongst yourselves, but until you really come up against competition, you're not sure how you're going to shape up.
Irish star Zach Tui helped the Demons celebrate the return of Jim's game, the round 6 clash dedicated to Irish player Jim Stynes, and now wants to see the International Rules Series back on the calendar.
Unless there's some logistical issue that I'm not aware of, I can't see why you wouldn't bring a men's and women's series back in tandem.
Meanwhile, Essendon won't panic just yet, refusing to sound the alarm despite a 62-point round 1 loss to Hawthorn.
It's not throwing everything out right now. There's an element of they were very good versus us, and some of the mistakes are, maybe a little bit of opening night nerves.
Alexia Pesce, ABC News.
The NRL is celebrating multicultural round this week with 66 national heritages represented across the game. More than a quarter of the league's players were born overseas, underlining the competition's diversity.
Everyone looking here for me, thank you.
For Penrith winger Casey McLean, this week is a chance to celebrate his Māori and Chinese heritage.
It means a lot, I suppose. There's a few fair of us boys that, kind of think of, culture first.
Multicultural round shines a light on the backgrounds that shape the game, from family to community.
Being able to, come down to one of these gala days, I suppose, see all these little kids where I was once upon a time.
Big smiles. Across the NRL, players are proudly representing their roots.
It's really cool, especially being from a little island of Malta. It's really cool to be here and celebrate the multicultural round.
For McLean, that cultural connection extends beyond Penrith. His cousin Joe Chan will also celebrate his Chinese heritage with Melbourne, as the Storm look to continue their strong start to the season in a grand final rematch against the Broncos.
I think last year's in the past. Broncos got the win last year, and we got a clean slate, and it's a new opportunity, a new year.
Cleary! After a stunning round 1 victory, the Sharks were brought back down to earth by the Panthers on the weekend.
I think you always want to verse the best teams in the competition, and to come up against them early was a great sign of where we're at and a test for us.
They next face the Dolphins at home on Saturday.
Cronulla's in!
Sam Yeoman, ABC News.
Take a look around the country tomorrow. In Brisbane, a shower or two expected and a top of 29 forecast. For Sydney, some showers and getting up to 26 degrees. Canberra, there will be a shower or two, a top of 23. And Melbourne, partly cloudy, similar, a top at 23 degrees. Hobart, partly cloudy day, 23 also. For Adelaide, cloudy and 26. For Perth, sunny day, getting up to a pretty warm max of 36 degrees. In Darwin, some showers and a possible afternoon thunderstorm, a top of 31 degrees. That's ABC Late News. I'm Craig Smart. Thanks for your company. Good night.